Good afternoon, everyone. Meteorologist Ted Keller. The well-advertised winter storm that I think I first started publishing about on Saturday or Sunday is here, definitely showing up in Oklahoma and moving toward us at a pretty steady pace. So we'll give you the broad overview first. This is what I like to show. This is the national view with the 500 millibar flow, or maybe you could refer to this sometimes as the steering currents. Lots of different names for it. But basically the wind in the upper atmosphere is following along these channels like this and like this. So what we see here when we overlay with the satellite is a lot of cooling cloud tops here. That's what the infrared IR stands for. And that can be used roughly as an inference of sometimes precipitation rates, although in this case what we have is high cloudiness over Missouri and no snow falling out of these bands here yet. But this stuff down here in Oklahoma is real. We'll demonstrate that here in a second. And there's that low that was here yesterday, and now it's moving up and getting sheared off and moving up into the plains, and that's what's allowing the moisture and lift to come up ahead of that. And I'll explain why that's all snow here in a minute. The regional radar loop is progressive, so you can see it's definitely moving up toward us. And these little symbols that are popping up in here are all snow, pretty much as far as we're concerned. So if you see a 2 like that, that's a light snow. And then if you see a triangle like that, that's a moderate snow. And then heavy snow is actually a diamond shape like that. And I've seen a couple of reports of diamond shaped down here in Oklahoma as this has been progressing toward us. So there's no doubt that the snow is heading toward us. A lot of times the initial echoes have trouble reaching the ground. That's true to a limited extent here, but because of this type of weather pattern that we're in, that's not as much of a concern because we already have a return of moisture enough, so we're not having to prime the atmosphere as much to get the snow down to the ground. And this is really what's going on. So this high right here is centered up over around Nashville, and we already have southerly flow. Notice that the dew points are pretty high. Here the dew point depression, difference between temperature and dew point down there around Hot Springs is only 2 degrees. Here in southwest Missouri, it's a little bit bigger of a spread, but when you have dew points that are not that far from the temperature, like in Branson, it's 25 degrees, but a dew point of 18. Again, that means that the air near the surface is not that dry. I've seen a lot drier when snowstorms are approaching, and a lot of times you spend hours trying to prime the atmosphere to get it ready for snow by moistening the lower layers. That's not as much of a case with this particular storm. So precipitation type, let's take you through this hour by hour. Change this back to black here. There we go. So this is the NAM forecast, which I think is pretty much spot on for precipitation advancement. 3 p.m. hitting Joplin to, let's say, Harrison Mountain Home line. And then we go to 9 p.m. So basically 6 hours later, snow has overtaken most of the Ozarks. And in this type of situation, it's common to get bands of slightly heavier snow. Like there's one right there. There's one right there, and there's one right there. And so when the snowfall map is finally calculated after this leaves, you're going to see this banding effect, I think. There are going to be some areas that get a little bit more if you're underneath one of those heavier bands, and some areas that don't get quite as much. And by the way, I wouldn't take where those bands are as gospel either. Just the fact that they exist is just a point of interest. And then at 3 a.m., snowing pretty much all across the Ozarks. Now, the heaviest of it is going to be at the nose of still the warm air as it comes up in the moisture right there in south central Missouri. I'll explain why I think that'll affect snow totals in a minute. And then this is 9 a.m. Friday, still snowing, but lightening up quite a bit from Springfield on to the west. And then as we go to 3 p.m. tomorrow, the last of it is ending across southwest Missouri. So they did extend the winter storm warnings, National Weather Service, up to here. So not quite including Springfield, but almost. So this is generally reserved for heavy snow at 4-6 inch totals and maybe snowfall rates that are concerning enough that it becomes a real problem. If it's snowing 1 or more inches an hour, that's a little bit more of a travel concern than if it's snowing less than that. And if it's snowing 2 inches an hour, which I don't think will happen here, but maybe down further into central Arkansas, it might do that. But again, there's a lot that goes into a winter storm warning. Now, let's take a look at this. The National Weather Service, there's more than 2 Weather Service offices out here, but as far as southwest Missouri is concerned and northwest Arkansas, there's the Springfield Weather Service office, and then there's the Little Rock office down to our south. So almost all of this is Springfield here. There's a little bit of Little Rock. There's even a little bit of Tulsa National Weather Service here. So this is a blend of what they think the forecast for snow will be. They're pretty optimistic we're going to get over 4 inches here in Springfield with 6-inch totals common in northern Arkansas. So that is sort of the human opinion, a forecaster's opinion of what's going to happen. This is even more than I thought would happen a few days ago. So we'll see how this turns out. The NAM, the North America model, will look at various outputs from various models. Just a little less, not quite up to 4 here in Springfield. Very intense snows approaching 9 inches in northern Arkansas. This model has always been the juicier one with regard to snow totals. The GFS has always been traditionally more south and not as intense as the Ozarks, with common 3 to 5 inch totals. Springfield a little bit less at 3.2 than the last model. And finally, the high resolution model that's run every hour. This is not the whole storm. This is only for the next 18 hours, but it takes us through most of the storm. And again, not as excited about snow totals, generally under 4 inches with the exception of around the Springdale area there too. So what's my opinion on this? I think Springfield will probably end up with about 3 to 4 inches. And then from that point south, generally increasing. But again, remember there'll be parts of the Ozarks where it tapers off a little bit and then picks up again, and it'll be banded, in other words. So it's almost impossible to tell you what towns in southwest Missouri will get an exact band on top of them. And why does it matter anyway? Because my consensus would always be a couple of inches snow difference is not that big of a difference. Snowfall rates are when snow hits. Like, for instance, this is going to be a problem tomorrow morning because it's Friday morning, work and school. Those are much more bigger factors than the actual total. Anyway, so that's my heads up weather. I'm recording this at about 1:30 today. So keep that in mind when you watch this. It's probably not going to be valid past late evening tonight, although I think the storm is going to behave itself. Pretty much what I showed you is, I think, on the path to certainty here. We're not really talking about a lot of things that are going to change between now and when this storm departs tomorrow. So if you're going out today, be safe, be mindful. It'll get worse as the evening progresses, and you may want to make some decisions about tomorrow morning as well. Thanks for watching the video. I'll see you on the next one.